I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Yep.
We're on Zoom today because Nick is in Italy.
Yes.
But the problem with Zoom is that slight delay.
Mm-hmm.
Really does affect it really does affect the dynamic of a conversation.
Uh-huh. So you want me to talk slowly?
No, you can. I'm saying that I think what's coming out of my mouth, when well, you're not on Zoom as much as I am for work, but like there's a slight delay in when the audio is received, I think.
Sure.
So there's that awkward, like, oh, I have to wait to talk and then listen. Anyway, I'm acting like it's day one of the pandemic. I've been on Zoom for 2.5 years and it's still awkward.
Yeah, I don't love Zoom. I don't, but
Well, you don't use Zoom for work. You use Teams. And how often are you on a Teams call?
oh, pretty rare, and where I have to be on cam. But no, I use Zoom when I used to work for the LGBT center.
That's right.
A lot, and then for during the pandemic, all those Oscar contender Q&As.
Oh, yeah. For work, I would say on average, I spend like 3.5 hours a day on Zoom. So not my favorite.
So this is a real treat for you.
Well, talking to you is different, but and this is our only option. So it's fine. But yeah, so we're on Zoom. So for people who listen on Spotify and Anchor, they can watch the video. I'm not putting this on YouTube. I'm sitting in our office. Where are you sitting?
I'm sitting in the kitchen area of my Airbnb.
Are you there alone?
See, yeah.
Like you have the Airbnb to yourself?
May we?
Oh.
I'll give you a tour after.
Oh.
It's actually very comfortable.
Oh, well, that's good.
However, it's important to note that in Venice, I'm staying on the mainland. I'm staying in Venice proper, if you will, and the festival is on the Lido, an island. So I have to take a boat back and forth every day, except for today because there's a regatta every first Monday of September. So I was
stranded. What does that mean?
A boat race. So the boat paths going to the Lido are closed because of this boat race. So my break time that I usually have been scheduling for myself in the afternoon to write, where I come back to the flat, didn't happen. But because last year I learned I got stranded, and that wasn't pleasant. But anyway, but I was gonna say I feel like unsteady constantly because I can feel the rocking of the boat in my bones. Like I feel like I'm constantly swaying.
You mean when you get off the boat and you're on land, you still feel like you're swaying?
Yes, like right now, or when I lay down, or like I can feel it.
Well, I think that's common because like on the cruises I've been on, like a lot of people will say that I don't seem to get seasickness. And also what you described, a lot of people describe as having that feeling for some time after they get off the boat. I generally have not felt that way, but yeah, I know that that's a common occurrence.
Yeah, so it's not uncomfortable, but it's just, a
reminder. We'll talk more about Venice at the end because I have questions, but we should go through the little list we have. But first, the drag queen Shannel, who was on season 1 of Drag Race. Did you read about her and stealing that woman's money?
I was the one that told you about that.
Oh, you told me about it. Okay. Well, then good. So
But is there a further fallout?
Well, I don't recall how much of it you told me, but I fell into a little like YouTube hole earlier today. But for those who don't know, Shannel is a drag queen who's from Las Vegas. She was on season 1 of RuPaul's Drag Race. She currently
All Stars.
That's right. She was on All Stars 1 with that terrible season of All Stars where they paired everyone together. And Shannel was paired with the winner, Chad Michaels. So she made it to the end. But she's currently performing at Senior Frogs in Vegas. And during her Sunday brunch act, a patron of the show accused Shannel of stealing $700 from her, because Shannel does this bit where she'll like take someone's purse or wallet and rummage through it and kind of embarrass them. And this time it went left, because when the lady got her purse back, she contacted management and said, I had a wad of cash in there, and she took it. And there's
my student loan payment was in there.
So of course, so then I was watching all this on YouTube, because there's a video of that performance, and you see Shannel take this woman's bag and then walk around for like 20 seconds and then open the bag and take money out of it. And then I watched this one person do an analysis and zoom in, and Shannel and management claims that Shannel only took $2, like there were $2 bills and
$2,000 bills. Yeah.
But from the looks of the video, it doesn't look like a wad of cash. Could it be $700 bills? Maybe, but it could also be two $1 bills. Like, I can't tell. So of course, then all the fallout of the woman, and then the woman's husband is a personal injury attorney. So of course he sent a request, and they want like over $6,000 in damages.
Damages.
But can I just tell you the funniest part of this thing, like, or what shocked me the most, is that that woman wanted the cost of the tickets refunded. So she was there with 9 of her, like there were 9 of them total. So she was there with 8 of her friends. So 9 people bought tickets to this drag brunch at Senior Frogs. Do you know how much the 9 tickets cost?
How much?
Over $1,200.
To see that?
Right. That's of everything that I was watching, when I heard that, and it wasn't the lady whose money got stolen, it was her friend who bought the tickets, that friend paid $1,200.
Girl, you need to go down to Lips in San Diego.
Oh, you know what? I would actually go back there. Although that food was, from what I recall, not good.
No, whatever grilled vegetable platter.
And it was like, I recall it being like very buttery and oily, maybe. But I did have fun. Here's the thing, and I've shared this story before. The very first gay bar I went to was a bar called Gypsies in Las Vegas, which no longer exists. But the first drag queen I ever saw was Shannel. So this was 26 years ago. And she was mean back then. She would call people out and pull stunts and I kind of never understood like the concept of making the audience uncomfortable. Like, it's one thing to be funny and make fun of people in the audience, but you know, some performers take it a little too far. So this has always been her shtick. And I don't know, in the age of like, you know, everyone having video recording devices on their phones, like, and everyone wanting to have a reason to like sue someone or go viral over something. I don't know why you would pull a stunt like grabbing someone's purse, especially with people being so quick to claim they've been violated. And I just don't know.
Litigation.
Right. I don't know why she thought this was still smart in 2022.
Well, she doesn't seem smart, but I mean,
well, that could be the problem too, clearly. Yeah. But then Shannel released an apology video, which was like 11 minutes. And it was lots of excuses, yes. But unfortunately, you leave yourself open to this kind of shit when you pull stunts like that. So Voss Events, who produces the show at Senior Frogs, refunded the $1,200 and then gave back the $700, even though based on their internal investigation, Shannel did not steal $700. They're saying Shannel stole $2 and then threw a $20 bill at the lady. And the lady acknowledges that Shannel that she said, like, you stole my money. And then Shannel called her the C word and said, I don't need your money. And then threw a $20 bill at her. And then the lady said, but I didn't pick it up because I don't need the money. So,
I need $700, but not 20. Okay.
well, here's the thing. I feel like it's just such a stupid situation. Like, I carry a bag everywhere I go. And if we were at some fucking comedy show and the performer was like, let me see that fag bag and I want to, you think I'm passing them my bag? Under no circumstances is that bag coming off my body. So the fact that she gave this drag queen her purse is like, okay, well, what do you think she's going to do with it? And then for Shannel to reach in the bag, take something out of it, and then heckle this person, like, did you think that was going to go well? It's just unfortunate because
I mean, unless the theme of the show was for masochists,
right.
I don't.
No, but I think, the other thing too is like both parties are receiving like hate online. And like the lady is receiving hate like
death threats.
You're right. And like that she doesn't support the gay community. And it's like this lady and her friends paid $1,200 to see a drag show. Plus they were buying drinks and food and they were tipping. I just think it's so unfortunate to spend all of that money to go see a show because you presumably like drag queens and then be made to have such an awful time at the show. Because I know I've been to drag shows where someone will make some comment and it's just like it ruins your moment. Like, you look mean, why don't you smile? Oh, like, why would you want to make me feel bad? Like, I'm here to have a good time. Like,
I remember in Minneapolis, a drag queen heckling me for the fabric I was wearing on my body.
It's one thing to have jokes, I talk shit all day, but there's a way to do it where it's just jokes. Like I'm talking shit and I'm moving on. Like you, that to me is funny. No hard feelings. You don't know me. You're just making jokes. We're all laughing. It's great. But like to take it the extra step and do this bit and take someone's bag and pull shit out of there. And I think Shannel's stupid. I think that lady's stupid for giving her the bag. I don't think that lady should have to pay to have seen that shitty ass show. And then she's suing. The extra money she wants is because she had booked a cabana at Aria or somewhere, I don't recall the name, but missed it because she was delayed arguing with management about her money. So she wants the cost of that too. And I kind of feel like, I don't blame her. Like, you ruined my thing. I spent a bunch of money to enjoy drag. Like, they weren't being, as far as I can tell, they weren't being disrespectful. Like, they were enjoying the show. So,
or she's just, an opportunist that's a moment to kind of make some money. So I don't know. Like, I don't trust either of them, but it's
sure.
It's just messy. It's just I think a lesson to anybody that sees that it's really easy not to be messy.
Yes. That's the lesson, is there are many, many ways to be funny and
or make yourself vulnerable to
right.
someone able to take advantage of you if in fact Shannel didn't do that. But I mean,
right. Well, but that's all the Drag Race we're getting today because I haven't watched any Drag Race.
Same.
Yeah. Okay, so more questions, but I thought one that might be fun that we could probably do every Sunday, because I know I have a laundry list, would be, what are some of our pet peeves? I can go first. I know you're making a face because you think it's going to be about you, but it's not this week. A pet peeve I have is people walking their dogs without a leash. That shit drives me crazy. And I didn't share the story except with you. Is a few weeks ago, I was driving from the doctor's office and a lady was walking her two dogs without a leash and the dog ran to the street and I hit that dog.
Yeah, I remember.
Thankfully, my car is low to the ground and it has the pedestrian, the car will stop itself. So the dog running in front of my car didn't stop my car. So I did hit the dog. What stopped my car was the owner running into the street to chase her dog. So I could have hit this bitch, which I did not hit her, but she did. Like, my car stopped and then her hand was on my hood. And then I had hit the dog and the dog kind of flew and then scurried away. Yeah, I'm like, this could have been alleviated, or this could have been prevented had you had your dogs on a leash. And she had both dogs off the leash and the other dog was running around the street after my car stopped. So that's a pet peeve of mine. Can you think of one?
unnecessary noise in public spaces, including flip-flops.
Oh, you don't want the sound of people's shoes?
Oh my God, no. Like a nice like heel on a certain substance like is doable, but like that lazy shuffling sound of flip-flops. Again, and also people being unaware, inconsiderate, when we're all victims to being in a certain space and not, knowing how to shut the fuck up. That's annoying to me. But yeah, I have a lot of them too. But
well, I agree with yours. The one that hits me the most is like people who play their music. Like I was at the gym a few days ago and some man must have forgot his headphones. So he was playing his music on his phone, like out loud on the treadmill.
oh no, where the you're paying to be there, where the gym attend, where the employees to say this is not
Or the people who ride around on their bike with like the boom bot, like the speaker play, like who it's so like you think everyone wants to hear. I don't want to hear that. Like
that's annoying, but they're mobile, so they go, because I don't like the fucking sound of the goddamn ice cream truck either. But it's
well,
like
the ice cream truck comes at 9 p.m., which is ridiculous.
And we live in a nicer neighborhood.
I don't understand why that's happening.
Yeah, no, like whose children are running out at 9 p.m. to greet the ice cream truck and then get abducted by a serial killer? But
He's probably selling drugs. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we should go buy some ice cream and see what's up.
And yell at him. Okay, moving on. Films that were released we didn't cover. Something called Waiting for Bojangles.
Oh yeah, which I would have watched had there not been a major film festival this week. God, I'm probably butchering his name, but Regis Roinsard, who is best known for directing Indochine, starring Catherine Deneuve, which is her only Oscar nomination. And it's a film I like, but hasn't done a film I've found notable in a long time. But he has a film that opened this week starring Virginie Efira and Romain Duris, which I would have watched, but didn't.
Next, Blind Ambition.
A documentary that I was asked to review and I did not, about 4 Zimbabwean men from who formed their country's first wine tasting Olympics team, which actually
wait, wine tasting is in the Olympics?
I don't know. That's the description of the documentary. I haven't watched it.
Is it a comedy?
I'd imagine there's some funny bits, but yeah, I don't know.
There's nothing in the sorry to this man section, although Forgive This Save Your Soul is getting higher than average views in their comments. Like people feel like we don't understand what the movie was trying to do. I don't.
Oh, well, I mean, then that's because the movie didn't do well.
Well, right. That would be the counterpoint, is if I'm not getting it, it's probably because it wasn't presented well. I don't think the movie's shitty. I just think it didn't.
No.
It was a missed opportunity to do something like.
No, I feel like I understood
satire, but it's like very mild satire.
I understood exactly what that film was trying to do, but it doesn't do it well enough to make it good. That's the point of kind of points taken off. But
yeah, but Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown did a great job with what they were given.
Yes, and I will watch a movie starring either of them for them. But and yeah, they're great in it. That doesn't make any sense. Like a reason that you give a lesser rating on a review is because it misses out on certain points in its presentation, and that's a film that misses out on its presentation, in writing, and I think in the budget. But
okay, movies we watched for fun. You watched something called Far and Away.
Something called Far and Away. The one film that I watched on my flight to Venice was 1992's Far and Away, directed by Ron Howard, starring Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise as Irish people who have gone to the US, and he is a boxer, and they are greeted by various tragedies and class issues. Not a good film, but fun.
Do they both speak with an Irish accent?
They try.
How bad is it?
it's not good, but they try. And it's funny because I think on my flight to Cannes, I watched Days of Thunder with those two, which I'd never seen before either, which I also didn't really love, but it was a plain film. I don't know.
Okay, I finished the television series Martin. I watched all 5 seasons because
Damn.
we subscribed to BET Plus, and I ended our subscription, which expires on like in 3 days. So I felt pressure to watch. The main reason I kept it was because of Martin.
Sure. Well, I mean, their film selection is
Well, I have watched many films on BET Plus, and none of them have been good, but several of them have been quite fun.
you know,
So,
that's all you can ask for from life.
well, yeah. So I just didn't want another $10 a month thing to pay for. But I do have to say from Martin, I was getting so I finished the last episode like 3 hours ago, and I was pretty emotional because it made me think a few things. First of all, like the way, how we look at certain things from our youth and where we hold them in our mind. And then when you revisit it and it doesn't hold up,
Yeah.
it's sad. And then I also think that was a very sad time in my life. So maybe the comedy, I found a lot of joy in the humor, but it probably was offset or enhanced by how terrible my life was at that time. But watching it as an adult, yeah, my biggest takeaway is the first 2 seasons are quite funny. I think it suffered from network executives forcing the writers, because Martin didn't write this show. There were writers for the show. And based on other things I watched outside of the show, it seems like his input was not as potent as one would think.
I say like Seinfeld, maybe.
So I think the show suffered for the final 3 seasons, for more than half of the series, from executives insisting that they basically punch everything up with sort of the catchphrases that, so of course, Martin being ridiculous and being mean to Pam, and Gina and Martin always fighting. And I think thinking about having watched it as a teenager over the course of 4+ years, it wasn't as obvious to me. And then also because I was young and more stupid than I am today. But as a 43-year-old, it's just how toxic their relationship was. Because I remember hearing people talk about like Pam, Martin and Gina and that love affair. And it's like, I don't see it. And then the final season, because of the sexual harassment and abuse allegations Tisha Campbell made against Martin Lawrence, season 5 is really weird because for a third of the season, Gina's gone.
Campbell.
Say that again.
She's the one that made the allegations.
Yeah. So part of the situation while it was under investigation is they couldn't work together. So for, I believe, like 8 or 9 episodes, she's not in the show. And then they say that she's in LA setting up an office. We get a couple of episodes where she's on the phone. And then she does return for the final episode, but they're never in the same room. Like they keep crossing paths. Mm-hmm. But it was very sad to watch, like, because they never really felt like they were that great of a couple, combined with how toxic they were to each other. And then how mean Martin was to Pam is just really uncomfortable. And then looking back at like Tommy and Cole, they're just the same in every episode. They say the same lines. They say this, they do the exact same thing. So the creativity is, even the set design, like I never, like rewatching it, I just couldn't quite understand why their living situation, like Gina moved in with Martin, but Gina had the nicer apartment. And then Pam takes over Gina's apartment, but Pam is Gina's assistant, so she makes less than her. So that means that this apartment has to be affordable. So why wouldn't they, like, I just, and then, yeah. And then of course, Martin leaves his radio show. So then for a season, he's not working. And then he gets his own talk show. And then that's like, also the comedy is quite homophobic and transphobic. Not as bad as it could have been, especially for someone who used to host Def Comedy Jam, because some of the shit on there was really bad.
Right, and you do have Martin playing female characters.
Right, right. So, I think there are some highlights. There are some really funny moments. Another thing is that I didn't remember that there was a reunion episode, or like a greatest hits reunion episode, flashback episode, like at the end of season 4. And then we just watched the recent reunion and they were very much the same. Like, I just feel like this is a show that was very popular on Fox, and for a lot of people my age and older, probably holds a lot of value. But looking back, I don't think it's brilliant writing. I don't think Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold are far superior comedic actors. Martin Lawrence is a stand-up comedian, but I think he's actually kind of like not a good actor, especially next to Tashina Arnold.
I agree. I would agree with that. But they took something that was successful, that I think felt like they probably had to do what they needed to do to keep it going. Because a lot of other things, look at what happened to Living Single.
I keep saying Tashina Arnold. I meant Tisha Campbell. I think Tisha Campbell. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Living Single. Because I think the writing for that show is far superior. The acting is way better.
Yeah, but also look what happened to it. Like it
was ripped off.
Ripped off, but all the white writers that came on board, and that kind of caused also the dissolution of that show.
I did want to say though, the contention between Martin and Pam became grating after a while, and I don't think it was ever done in a really sophisticated way. But on Living Single, that character's name was also Pam, right? Erica Alexander.
Erica Alexander, was that Pam? No.
What was her name? No, what was her name?
Her name was not Pam. It's Khadijah and
Maxine.
Maxine.
The contention between Maxine and Kyle, that was good writing, because we, as the audience, we still we could feel their hatred, and then when they decided to like hook up, it also made sense. But then for Martin and Pam, it's just like, you two hate each other so much. I don't even know how you even tolerate being in the same room, and how your best friend Gina even lets her boyfriend talk to her best friend that way. But anyway, I think we talked about Martin for too long. I did want to mention, so I watched, Netflix has a series called Untold, and I watched one episode called The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist. And I think you would have been really frustrated
by a chapter in my book.
Because this follows in the footsteps of some other Netflix documentaries we've watched, like Our Father, about that fertility.
So it's like bullshit and a waste of time?
Yes, because this one is about a guy named Manti Tao. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. He's a Polynesian man who played for the NFL. He played for the San Diego Chargers. He went to college on a full scholarship for football to Notre Dame, and then was drafted by the San Diego Chargers. But people knew him as being like a super popular college football player. And then right around the time when he was to be drafted, like a first line draft pick, which means that he's very good, he announces that his grandmother and girlfriend have died, like in the same time period. So he's going through a big tragedy. It got a lot of attention. And this was back in like 2012, I believe. So he got a lot of attention.
God, I maybe remember that. Anyway, yeah.
I didn't, but based on this, it seemed like it was a super big deal. But the reason this is like a sort of a scandalous story is because all of the major networks ran with it. ESPN, like all the big networks were posting about his girlfriend dying and how brave he is and how he's still playing football. But then there was this website, like I forget the name of it, but it's one of those websites that kind of like tries to uncover scandals. And basically their mission is to sort of prove that, the larger media doesn't do like their due diligence and like fact.
Web sleuths.
Yes, essentially. So they get a tip one day that this man Tai Tao guy, that girlfriend of his, is not a real person. So they're like, interesting. So they pass it off to this one guy, and he starts doing some light digging. He's like, yeah, this doesn't make any damn sense. Like this woman, her full name, she only exists in relation to this story. Like, where did she go to high school? Who knows her? We find out that it's basically like an episode of Catfish, where this guy basically was in love with this football player and developed a relationship with him, and this was back when, Catfish was not a thing. So
it wasn't, the documentary was like 2009 or 10.
Everyone in this thing was saying that this was not a thing. Like,
okay, sure.
Like that wasn't a word people use like they use today.
It was pre-TikTok.
So this guy created a Facebook account, stole all these pictures, like did all the things we know from Catfish, starts talking to this football player, and they maintain a relationship over the course of a year. And all of the red flags are there that we know of from Catfish, like, oh, my webcam's not working, or oh, my cell phone died, but the football player kept saying, like, well, but back then we didn't know, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So there are 2 episodes, each one's an hour. So the first one, it builds up to like, oh yeah, this guy got catfished. But then we find out that maybe he did know who this person was, because the guy catfishing him had been around him. So the reason that this is such weak documentary work is because they're trying to do 2 things. They're trying to sort of call out these larger news outlets saying that they run these stories without fact checking anything. But then they're also presenting the fact that maybe this guy knew what he was doing, and he was only doing it to get sympathy because he wanted to win the Heisman, which is an award for football. I thought it was for NFL players, but it's not. It's for college players, I believe. And apparently that award is given, like, the people who vote for it, there's like an emotional component to it. Like, it's not necessarily your stats, it's like who they like. So then this documentary is sort of posing that maybe this guy created this lie to get some sympathy, but they never really dig in. And then it ends with like nothing, like he's just out here living his life. He stopped playing football like 2 years ago. But we do get to meet the guy who catfished him, and that guy is now trans. So he's a woman now. So we see this person as a female talking about it. And all of it sounds like bullshit to me. Someone actually commented asking us to watch this, and I'm assuming it's because they think it's bullshit too. But yeah, I think you would have been so frustrated, because it just feels like fluff. Like, this football player is no longer a pro player, probably trying to get some shine again. So he agreed to do this documentary, but is not going to give them too much information, because of course, then there are rumors that maybe he's gay and that he was doing this to sort of like hide the fact that he's gay. But they never really dig into that. Another movie I watched that I wanted to bring up, I watched something called 12 Feet Deep. It's a 2017 like horror film. It's one of those survival films. It says it's based on a true story. It's directed and written by someone named Matt Eskandari. This movie was horrible. And the reason I brought it up is because I was reading about it, and I see that like Joe Blow gave it a very positive review, some other outlet. And I'm like, this shit was a...
Oh, wait. Is it a Canadian filmmaker? Because Joe Blow is out of Canada.
Oh, let's see.
Maybe.
Well, it says that he went to film...
Read between the lines here.
Well, it says he's Iranian born.
Oh,
he went to film school at USC. Yeah. And that his debut film premiered at Cannes.
What year? And it was, in the market, like that doesn't count, but I'd have
Okay,
to.
victim, his 2010. Anyway,
Okay.
when I tell I this would make a great like episode of its own, but it's about these two sisters who are at like the public pool, and
Mhm.
they get locked in the pool. Like they're in the pool and that fiberglass cover covers the pool. So they're
Mhm.
stuck underneath the pool.
Okay, it's called
And the
12
guy
Feet.
who runs the community center is Tobin Bell from like the Saw movies, and he is playing it like he's such an asshole. Okay, so they're in this pool. Okay, it's called 12 feet deep. I don't recall there seeing that it's 12 feet deep. I'm sure one side of the pool is 12 feet deep, but the
This
other
is
side is like 4 feet deep. So these two sisters can stand up in the pool, and there's plenty of oxygen because there's like, oh, the water doesn't rise to the top. So they're standing up with their head above water, and there are holes in the fiberglass. So they can breathe, they can stand up, but we're told right away. Like the very first thing Tobin Bell does is put a sign on the door that says, we're going to be closed like a 3-day weekend for the holiday. So obviously the idea is that these three are going to be stuck in the pool for 3 days. So then you think, okay, well, you can survive in the water for 3 days if you can stand up, right? But we find out one of the girls is diabetic, which didn't make sense to me because she says she has to check her blood sugar levels and she takes insulin, but then her sister doesn't know she's diabetic, which seems odd that if she's type 1 diabetic, she wouldn't have known much sooner, but whatever.
Mhm.
The thing that keeps this story going is that one of the pool employees is like an ex-con who's working there like on some work release program, and she won't let them out of the pool unless they give her their like ATM pin number because they
Mhm.
left their purses like outside. So it's basically like that's the villain. This movie is so stupid, and just every single thing about it, there's no tension because it's like, well, they're not going to drown in this pool, and the longest they're going to sit in this water is 3 days, and then the bad guy does turn off the heater so the water gets cold, but the water gets cold instantly. Like there must be 10,000 gallons of heated water, and you turn off the heater and it instantly gets cold. But anyway, I wanted to bring it up because it's on Hulu, I believe. That's where I watched it. And it's horrible. So if anyone's interested in like a really shitty horror thriller, 12 Feet Deep is it.
Also, I just looked it up. It's a 2017 film.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right. Yes.
Starring Mary Jane Noon of The Descent and the Magdalene Sisters. This was not a can as part of the official program.
I would be willing to watch it again just so someone else can experience, because I feel like I'm crazy because there are good reviews for it, and the acting, the dialogue, the scenario, the fact that it's based on a true story and that there's this like ex-con holding them under the water for their pin number is so crazy to me.
You know, the one thing I've learned, one of the things I've learned, you can't trust film critics. You cannot. Like they just they lie through their teeth. They do.
We have spent a lot of time on bullshit. Okay, I have projects of interest, something called Dream Scenario.
Oh yeah, yeah. Your buddy Nick Cage is going to star in an A24 film directed by Christopher Borgel. That the details of the plot are being kept secret.
Oh,
But there you go.
nevertheless, I'll want to watch it.
Yes.
Okay, unfortunately, there is an entry in the obituary section. Someone named
Yeah. A
Char
shot.
Charlbi Dean.
Charlbi Dean, a South African actress. She was in the Palme d'Or winner this year, Triangle of Sadness from Ruben Ostlund. She was 32 and she died of an unexpected illness. I don't think it's been released what that illness was exactly, but she's very young, very beautiful, died suddenly.
Oh, well, that's always too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So for Venice, you have watched many movies in the first, what, 6 days?
Yeah, I've written 25 reviews. I've seen many more films than that. As far as the competition, I watched 13 competition films. There are 10 more to go. So yeah.
So you do have a little list of some of your faves so far and some of the ones you didn't love, but just to be clear, so you fly into Venice, you left LAX and flew into.
I flew to Frankfurt, Germany, and
then you
then
were there for how long?
like 5 hours, and then
How was that?
Fine. I mean, I got some writing done.
And then you get to Venice.
Mm-hmm.
What, you take like a cab to your Airbnb?
No, waterboat.
Oh, the airport. You have to take a water boat from the airport?
Yeah, there's a section of you can take a car part way into the city, but that's not helpful to where I need to be. So and I think a lot of people you go down to basically a dock that's like a 10-minute walk after getting off the plane to a water boat.
And then you're in this 1-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, which has like a very spacious living room. That's right out in a very popular tourist area. But and then every morning I have to get up and go to a certain like a water bus stop and get on a particular water boat to go to the Lido.
Are there any COVID precautions?
On public transportation, you're supposed to wear a mask, although I noticed at night a lot of these assholes won't, but that's it. Mm-hmm.
So in the screening rooms, you're not wearing a mask?
Some of them I am.
Well, what would determine some over others?
If I feel uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever.
And then are people talking about monkeypox?
Not at all. But also, I haven't really talked to anybody. I have run into people that I know very briefly and have had conversations, but I haven't like sat and had a drink with anybody or like really picked anybody's brain or their opinions of what they've liked so far or anything. Like I really have been just kind of stuck on my own. But the different, last year was my first year here. There are many more people here. The attendance is much greater. So while the festival area is very contained to this one kind of little bitty area, and you'd think you'd run into people, based on where food is available and things like that, it's like just so strenuous to get some basic needs met. It really is hard to kind of mingle. So you really don't have a lot of time if you're watching everything that I am to socialize. So I don't know. Nobody has mentioned it to me. So.
And then what have you been eating?
Fruit and at least one meal a day.
Splendid. Okay, so
either like pizza or some kind of pasta thing. But I like to actually, because they're very expensive restaurants on the Lido, but you tire very quickly of kind of the faster things you can get, and they're not really that fast because there's just a throng of people everywhere you go. So I like to, for my breaks in the afternoon, come back to eat. It's much more easier to eat on the mainland, but then you can get stuck in these very like tourist kind of places where the food is like, you learn very quickly kind of how to detect what is like a tourist trap and what might be, maybe a more authentic family-owned restaurant.
All right. So do you want to talk quickly about the top picks so far? Probably we should start with you got to see Sigourney's new movie.
Oh yes, I did. Yeah, and that was amazing. And I know there have been significant detractors of that film, but it's pretty fucking good. And
like, is there a comedic component to it?
Yeah, there's some dark comedy. It's about a white supremacist, basically. But Sigourney is in top form. I could have used a little more of her in the film, of course, but she's a lot of fun. She's this kind of this elitist bitch that gets a really nice Joan Crawford moment towards the end of the film. But Joel Edgerton is also quite good in it. It's, of course, the third film in a thematic trilogy by Schrader, his Man in the Room trilogy that follows First Reformed and The Card Counter. I know I made you watch First Reformed because that was my favorite film that year that came out. No, I really loved it. It's goofy and weird, and isn't trying to make you like it, and has a lot of very interesting, maybe obvious, but very interesting metaphors about racism and the current state of America, and all contained in this one gritty little weird Paul Schrader film. But yeah, that's on my top 5 thus far.
Next is something called Tar.
Oh, you're going in the opposite direction. Tar might end up being my favorite film of the year. And I think it comes out in November, and I cannot fucking wait until you see this film.
What is it?
Took my breath away. Cate Blanchett, mwah, mwah, mwah. It is about a conductor, the first female conductor of this major German symphony, the Berlin Philharmonic. And if you read basic plot descriptions, you're like, okay, yeah. But you have no idea what this film is like. It's about this just complete narcissistic sociopath, but delivered in a way that's aspirational almost. And she's this lesbian married to Nina Haas. She has a child with, and kind of gets involved in some scandals. And it goes in so many. The last time I felt this way about a performance was when I saw Isabelle Huppert for the first time in The Piano Teacher. That is how much I loved Cate Blanchett in this film. It's really just intriguing and troubling and upsetting, because I won't go into more than that until you need to see this film, and we'll expound upon, I think, some of the emotional things I had watching the film. But I loved it. I was absolutely in love with it.
All right, something called All the Beauty and the Bloodshed.
Laura Poitras, her new documentary, I was also not expecting to be so moved by. I knew it was about the opioid crisis, but it's really a combination of being about that through the prism of an artist named Nan Golding, who I've heard of before, but I wasn't really familiar with her photography. But it's kind of about Nan Golding's life prior to that, which is just fascinating, all the experiences and people that she's had. But it's a very personal and intimate and poignant documentary about kind of life in general that I would have been fascinated by without kind of her activism in trying to take down the Sackler family, because she had experienced an addiction to Oxycontin after a surgery, et cetera, et cetera. But that was really a pleasurable experience.
Next, Bones and All.
I know I've talked about this before because I read the book recently.
What is the story about?
Cannibals. The book I felt a little bit YA, but I think that I really liked what Luca Guadagnino did with the film adaptation, starring Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell as a pair of, they're called eaters, who have to periodically eat people. And it's kind of a romance film, a dark tragedy. It exists, I think, somewhere in a spectrum between trash, like Twilight, and something sublime like Terrence Malick's Badlands, but much closer to Terrence Malick, that I think, than Twilight. But that was an enjoyable experience. There were a lot of headlines about an 8-minute standing ovation. People clap for anything, and they've clapped at all the movies. Means nothing. But that was. I did quite enjoy that film. Mark Rylance is super fucking creepy and weird as this older eater, and he reminds me of, is it Herb the Perv from Family Guy?
Oh,
He's giving me that vibe in this movie, but very, very enjoyable. I think that you will like that as well.
Lastly, something called Monica.
Something Called Monica, the newest film by Andrea Pallaro, whose last film was in my top 10 of 2017 called Hannah, starring Charlotte Rampling. And this film is the second and also a thematic trilogy centering on women. Trace Lysette is the star as a trans woman named Monica, who goes back to meet her mother on her deathbed, and her mother doesn't know who she is, and kind of teasing that out. And it's very subtle, and it's a very visual interior film. There were a lot of walkouts, the kind of the later night screening that I was at for that, but I think it's doing a lot of really excellent things. And I thought Trace Lysette gave, God, am I saying, is it Trace or Tracy? Actually, I'd never heard her name spoken out loud, but all I know about her is she called us a pair of old queens on our Hustlers review. But
oh, that lady?
yes.
Oh,
but she did a great.
Well, shout out to her.
No, great job. Patricia Clarkson is the dying mother. A lot of things I liked about that film.
Well, maybe after your kind words for her performance, she won't be mad at you anymore.
I doubt she's paying attention, and I could care less. But
okay, moving on to films you didn't like. Something called Bardo.
Bardo,
Bardo?
or a farce, a false chronicle of truths, or whatever the title of that, by Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. You know, I liked The Revenant and I liked Birdman well enough. And yeah, this was just self-indulgent bullshit. And I can understand that there's an argument that it's kind of this grand spectacle, but it's just so empty. And the main character, and I even like the actor playing the main character outside of this film, it's just like, why do I care about this privileged asshole and all of these clunky, awkward things that Inarritu is trying to say about nationality and privilege? It was a 3-hour slog to sit through, and I did not like it. It is definitely the worst thing I've seen thus far. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, next, Athena.
Athena, I was also, I gave it a 2.5 out of, because it's got some really great action sequences and some impressive choreographed battle scenes, basically like urban guerrilla warfare against the police in France, based on a potential incident, a potential murder that happened because of police brutality. And of course, there's a twist on top of that. But then all of the characters end up being really kind of one-dimensional, cookie cutter. But I do like all of the kind of, like, Athena is the goddess of war, and all of the allusions to Greek mythology. And there are a lot of things going on that I liked, but it just, with the character work and kind of like some third act bungling, I think it really detracts from it. But it's the third film directed by Roman Gavras, who's the son of Kostas Gavras, of course, the very notable Greek filmmaker who directed Z and Missing. And there are some similarities, I think, plot-wise to something like Z. But yeah, I was very cool on that.
Lastly, Immensity.
Immensity, or L'Immensité, Italian-French production starring Penelope Cruz, who I think looks fantastic in it. It's set in 1970s Rome, and it's about a mother and her child who have a very strong bond, and her eldest child is trans, but wouldn't know how to say that in the 70s. And I think the first half hour, I think, is really compelling and really interesting at this portrait. And then it just like falls apart in all kinds of cliches. It feels like a nice gesture film that really deserved a much stronger script, I think, than it has. Yeah, but I didn't like it. I don't know.
So you have another week to go.
Less. Tomorrow's Monday. I have 5 more days.
Oh. Tomorrow's Labor Day. So I actually didn't recall that until I just said it. So I guess I don't work tomorrow. No, I don't. I didn't realize that. Well, there you go. How many more films do you have to watch?
I don't even know. It gets the people start to leave, thankfully, during the second half of the film festival. So logistically things will be easier, but I don't think there's maybe 1 or 2 days I have 4 films, and then the rest are 3, and those are a 3-day, which is really rare, let me say, because at Cannes or Berlin, there are no days where I only watch 3 films. But so I'm very much looking forward to that and kind of relaxing a little bit. But that hasn't happened thus far.
All right. Do you have anything else for us?
No. Well, I don't know that
you reading anything?
I'm still reading Liarmouth because I've had no time to read, like none. You aren't following Venice at all, apparently. Then,
do I follow any film festival?
Well, I don't know, like any headlines, like the Brendan Fraser movie where he's playing a 600-pound man. You know.
Oh, did you watch that?
Yes.
Oh.
Anything there are headlines about has already premiered. I've seen it, which I liked. Kind of. It has some staginess that I don't like, but Brendan Fraser is really quite good. It has its moments that earn like being a tearjerker authentically, but then it has some very kind of rough patches to me. But that definitely will win things, I'm sure.
That'll be interesting. I mean, I would watch it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll see it. Yeah, and of course there's already things. For the week after I return, we already have several things scheduled to see, as you know. Actually, you don't know. I haven't told you.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
But we have Pearl coming up, which I had a ticket to the premiere of the midnight premiere of last night, and it started too late for me to stay because the last boats back to the mainland leave at 2. But a screening for that will be next week.
So wait, so what happens to the people? Oh, because some people are staying on the island.
A lot of people are, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Which is what drives the prices up. But then there are even more that are over here. But anyway.
Well, I think that's all I have, unless you have something else. Well, next week you'll be back here.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't know who's choosing the film. I had a really good film I wanted to watch, and I just forgot what it was. So maybe it'll come to me.
I think it's you, because we did Mishima was the last film.
Oh, shoot. I hope I remember. I recall thinking I had a selection that would be very good, but I need to write things down.
You do need to write things down. I feel like I have a memory of things that you say you want to watch that I could, like, I won't say them because it would ruin it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Bye.